I can't hear you though. Okay. Can you hear me? I can't hear you at all. Can't hear you once, one bit. Is your volume off? Can't hear you. I can hear the Zoom, but not you.
How's this now? It's better?
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, sweet.
Because the audio is going to sound like shit when I put it up on YouTube. That's what I'm worried about. If I don't have my, yeah, if I don't have my headphones in. Sorry.
Do you want me to press record or you're recording it now? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay. Anyway, we got about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes. I'm going to kick it
Sure,
off.
man.
Yeah, very quickly, mate. Firstly, fucking pleasure meeting you, bro. It's fun. It's good to put
Yeah, mate.
it's good to put a name to a face, All right, so what I'll do is this quick one introduction. Tell me who you are, what you're doing. I'll introduce us. The main thing or my key takeaways from this entire thing is going to be this whole thing about leadership, your trips in Asia, what you're doing in Asia, what you plan to do in Asia moving forward, and where do you see
Yeah.
us in this world that we live in today. And the last one is tips for people who might want to follow a journey similar to yours
Sure, sure, sure.
and
Okay.
what they look
Cool,
and
man.
stuff like that. All right.
Yeah, cool, mate. Nice, nice, nice. Well, yeah, yeah. Good to meet you as well, obviously. It's good to talk with you and yeah, it's just good to speak to other people who are doing something different, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good thing to do, and certainly online in the digital nomad space, the travel space is a big sort of part of my life. So it's been really good speaking with you and just sort of sharing tips about things.
Mhm.
Um, we're in sort of like this age at the moment where technology is just sort of rapidly developed in the last 10 years, you know, like through social media and now sort of other AI and whatever else, and it's just interesting to see what the people are doing.
Yeah.
um so yeah, but to introduce myself, so my name's Tommy Walker. I work
Well, let me start with welcome to 84 Musing Podcast
sure,
first.
sure, 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 sure. Okay, go, go, go,
Anyway,
go.
everyone, welcome to 84 Musings Podcast. I'm very lucky he had a chance to sit down with Tommy and catch up with him and let him shoot some shit with us and explain to us what's going on in his world and what he sees or where he sees this world headed towards. I'll be hosting. I'm Rakesh, co-founder of 84 Musing. And Tommy, welcome.
Hey Rakesh, thanks for bringing me on. I know it's a bit early for me. I'm a bit of a nocturnal guy, but no, great to be on, mate. Yeah, thanks, and let's talk about
Yeah.
what we want to talk about. Yeah, yeah.
Let's start with who are you? Who is Tommy?
So my name's
Yeah.
who's Tommy Walker. So yeah, Tommy Walker. It's my real name. People sometimes think it's a pen name. You know
Okay.
what I mean? I get a lot of when I'm in Asia. A lot of people say, "Hey, Johnny Walker, Johnny Walker." No, 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 Tommy Walker. So yeah, yeah. So work in a variety of things. Some people will know me from my travels. I've traveled. Well, I'm from the UK originally. I left the UK 13 years ago, but I went on a 3 month backpacking trip that's turned into me living out here for well over a decade now. First and foremost was known as someone who traveled a lot. You know, I spent a lot of time in Asia traveling, backpacking, and then I moved to Australia and lived a life over there. And then I did a lot in South America as well, a lot of traveling over there. So those 2 or 3 years, I basically sort of became this traveling sort of person. This was at a time around about 2012, 2013, where social media wasn't as sort of big as it is now. And even like leaving my hometown at the time, people were like, sort of, oh, that's weird. Is he a hippie? Why is he going to Asia? And then, this is from a British perspective. They think, well, why are you leaving all your friends, your family to go traveling? Like, what's so good out there? Whether that was a small town, small town mindset, or just people's sort of own sort of resentment or jealousy or curiosity, I'm not sure, but it seemed to be bigger than it would be today. So yeah, I just went traveling and obviously loved coming over to Asia. Came here where I live in Thailand now, but went all over. Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, India. So. done a lot of traveling, sort of, I know it's cliche. People think, oh, you find yourself when you go traveling. That's certainly from like the sort of the Western perspective, if you like, but it really does. It can really open your mind to who you want to be and who you are, and you get kept away, you get sort of separated from those societal pressures that you do when you live in your hometown. And I think it's really important. I was 24, 25, so it was a really good age. I knew I was an adult. I knew a little bit about the world. I'd had a good job in England. I'd lived for my, I lived for my, I lived by myself. I had a car and a girlfriend and everything. All the things that people would expect of you to settle down, but I just wanted a bit more, so circumstances changed in my life at a certain point, and then I was able to do that. So I came, yeah, traveling for, it's supposed to be for 3 months. It turned into a year.
Yeah.
Lived in Bangkok for a bit, and then I moved to Australia, South America. So that's the beginning of my travel journey. Since then, I've created travel communities, as me and you have talked about on social media. These communities amassed to about 500,000, 500,000, and it's worldwide: Southeast Asia, Africa, Europe,
Yeah.
North America, South America. So I do a lot of the community stuff, manage these communities. We work with clients to promote and connect B2C, so the business connects to the customer
Yeah.
and sort of connect people that way. For when people go traveling, especially, they want options, they want reputable options, they don't want to have to keep looking around. So we've been doing that for a number of years, worked and partnered with a lot of companies. Um,
Is that,
and myself,
is that the main source of money for you?
it's a bit, it's almost like it's about.
I think the question people might ask is that when you're 24, 25 and decide to go, you know what, I'm going to pack and I'm going to go. You have a lot of money
Mm,
picked up, or you like, you know what, let's just shoot the shits and let's hope what happens. Or do you have like,
yeah, yeah.
I know we
Mm.
like, let's wing it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bit of both. But I mean, for example, like I was in a sales job from an early age. I basically got in the sales job at 22, and it was a senior role, but I was getting paid quite well. And it was for a big German international company, and I was doing well. And then there was a company restructure there.
Yeah.
Essentially, my managing director and manager both left randomly at certain times. And then they were like, oh, Tommy's making a bit of money here. Let's try and restructure him. So they were saying, well, we can cut your wage because we're restructuring the business, or we can pay you some redundancy money. And I was just like, see you later, you know what I mean? So I did that, and I had some money from I mean, it's unfortunate, but my father passed away a few years ago, and he'd actually left me a little bit of inheritance money as well. So that helped me as well. But I'd had two different bits of money to help me get going and to live overseas. Again, my plan was only to go out for 3 months,
Yeah.
but obviously it's turned into this sort of 13-year crusade of working overseas. So anyway, just to go back, I've been creating these communities. I then became a travel writer, not a blogger. Bloggers were quite popular at that time. I did this, I've done that. I became a travel writer. I worked for magazines, publications.
Yeah.
People sent me to travel, to write for them and things like that. And then that's transcended into is me working in the news media. So I'm a foreign correspondent. You might see me on TV sometimes. I do
Yeah.
podcasts. I do written reports, photography sometimes. I'm a vice president here at the Foreign Correspondents Club in Thailand. Um, so a lot of these things have connected. Essentially, the main common denominator was just me leaving and traveling, and that sort of pushed me into what I do today. So there's a few things I do,
Mhm.
um, and essentially I work for myself. Obviously, depending on the media, the news media, there might be certain stories or deadlines I have to meet, but I can, and if I'm on TV, obviously it's a bit different. But other than that, if I'm working remotely, working with the communities, the clients, or writing things online, then I can work pretty much anywhere I want, which is a digital nomad life, which is a popular sort of way of living today. I think it's a really liberating way of living. I really think unless you're like a celebrity or you're a zillionaire or you've got a big, huge millionaire inheritance from family, I really think the digital nomad way of life is the best way to live because you're in control of your time.
100%.
And yeah, I think it's incredible, and I suggest more people to do that. So that's a little bit of rundown of my life. We can
Yeah.
take it back or forward if you want, but yeah, yeah.
I just want to see it because it's very interesting, Tony, when you and I had our previous conversations over the phone. And because one of the things I always wondered is, of course, it's we both are very focused on community building or building communities around
Yeah,
our passions, like be it travel,
yeah.
remote working, be it whatever. I think, how do you start off with your community building efforts?
Honestly, it was my own self-absorbed way of wanting to meet other people. You know, we like you said, it's 2025 today, and we both have communities where people meet up and network and socialize. Back in 2012, actually 2011, I'd actually started the communities before I'd actually went traveling, but. Um, it was basically to find, again, it goes back to the point. It was basically to find like-minded people who are going to be on a similar journey for me for a few months traveling. And again, in them days, and it's only, 13, 14 years ago,
Mm.
which doesn't seem that long to me, but, to maybe to younger people, it might. But, social media wasn't as incessant as it is today. And traveling wasn't as popular or a trend as it is today. Digital nomads didn't, it wasn't even a term, not a term in mainstream. And so I actually created a Facebook group along with another traveler. She was from Norway, and we created this group. And we're like, "Hey, Southeast Asia, let's just create this group and see who joins it, and we can talk." And it's funny you asked that, but the actual communities that I'd started on Facebook, which have manifested into what it is today, actually began on Lonely Planet. Now, I don't know if you remember Lonely Planet had a website, it had a
Mhm.
forum, but it wasn't like an instant message forum. It was like then forums where you write something and then you have to refresh the page and then someone might reply.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, actually. Them forums, I went on them and I started to speak to some people, and I'd send a message to someone, and then the next day or a few hours later, I'd get a reply. That was like that's the how slow it was. And then I remember um, putting a message out after using these forums for a while. I said, I'm thinking about creating a Facebook group and adding lots of travelers here for Southeast Asia. And I got like put down so much. They were like, oh, some people were like, oh my God, like
I
who
know.
can believe that? All travelers in one group? Oh, it would be
I know.
disgusting. Like obviously these older travelers who had probably been in Southeast Asia and just were against change.
Mm.
Because a lot of people are against change. And they were like, it'll never work, I can't believe you do that. And then like it was like, oh, okay, but I did it anyway. And obviously Facebook groups now, obviously they've been big for years, and there's other forms of community building now. So they'd actually originated on the Lonely Planet forums and then moved over to Facebook. And again, it was just to create for me to meet other people. And then at the time, after it got going and I was traveling, people were coming up to me and they were going, "Are you Tommy Walker? You're the celebrity of Southeast Asia." They were saying that, and I was like, "Who the hell are you?" But they were like, "Oh, I'm part of your Facebook group." And it
Yeah.
was again, it was almost like revolutionary for the time.
Mm.
People who were like, "Oh, wow, you create a Facebook group for traveling? That's a really good idea." Um, and no, at that time, there was like probably like a less than 1,000 people in
Mhm.
it, but people were still recognizing me. So at the time, it was interesting, and sort of a lot of them people who were in my group. Certainly, from the first couple of years, I ended up meeting up. Nowadays, it's got a life of its own. People have moved on. Not
Mhm.
a lot of people can travel for 13 years or have the freedom that digital nomads like we can. But so that's kind of how it started. It's a really interesting journey. And it just helped me really to be who I am today, because without them communities, um, I actually got my first travel writing job through one of the Facebook groups. I saw an editor for a publication in South America, and I contacted him and said, "Hey, can I write something about Australia or Asia? I can't remember." And
Mhm.
he was like, "Yeah, sure." So these groups, these communities have helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I love them today. I'm trying to transcend them into other things as well, which we'll go on to, just to keep up to date with things. So yeah, it's been a really interesting thing. And again, it just started off as something for me to do myself, and I think for advice for other people, if they're going to create communities or create something of this
But don't you
ilk.
think also, Tom, do you think this whole term community is just such a buzzword now for businesses to use?
Mm,
Versus
mm,
back
mm.
in the days, I don't think we call it a community. We just call it a Facebook. Just join the group, mate. Join the group, mate. Join the
Yeah,
group.
the group. Yeah,
Yeah,
group was the thing. Yeah,
it's
communities is the buzzword. You're right.
it's
Yeah.
such a buzzword that we use today. I mean, like, I started pretty much the same time as about you. I started in 2012, 2013, and today
Okay.
it's to 700 or 1,000 people. But like I said, it takes
Nice.
life of its own after a while, right? And I was like,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, all we do is just moderate and make sure no one's fighting each other, and that's it. And then the
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
that's why I think the fact that when we initially started, I was just basically a messaging app for people first, and that's Facebook groups.
Mm,
So Facebook Messenger was kind of, they just launched that as well. So just us
Mm.
able to message each other and say, no, hey man, I'm at the bar having a beer here, here, here. Do you guys want to join? That's how it kind of was, right? But we
Yeah, yeah.
so well, ours was very localized to a certain place. So it was just Bali for instance, when we first started, versus
Mm.
now because Thailand is too huge. I mean, I can't be doing Kopangan and then Bangkok and Chiang Mai. It's just
Yeah.
retarded. So what happens was that what's happened for us was that experience kind of the Bali experience. Now it's over 200,000 people in that group, but that
Wow.
experience has more or less made us copy and paste that in other parts of Southeast Asia as well. But I
Mm.
think one
Mm.
of the biggest challenge that we face, is that now as digital nomads, it's a lot more inclusive. It's not just travelers. It's also the local
Mm.
community that we try to get involved in. And also this
Mm.
language barrier at times, of course. And I think that's what I think we faced today. What do you face any issues with your communities today when you look back? Oh, we could have done this.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we could have done
Gr-
that. Yeah.
Great point, great point. So basically, when I created them, they were specifically using the SEO as backpacking, right? Because that was like the trend at the time. And obviously, I was younger. But what I realized a few years later is that there wasn't just backpackers who were traveling. It was traveling was becoming more of a trend, right? Through social media. Generally, it was becoming more mainstream. So when people went, because certain places, certainly from my perspective, that if you went to a certain place, you went as a backpacker, you went as an independent traveler. You didn't go there on a vacation. And again, that was how travels transcended. I think parts of Southeast Asia, like Thailand, yeah, it's always had people going on vacation, but it was predominantly used to be from a Western perspective. This is, like a backpacker place, like, and that was the reputation. Nowadays, it's everyone, you know what I mean? Like couples, mid-range, luxury holidays, weddings, school trips. There's everything. But honestly, 13 years ago, you never saw that. Whether it was happening, you never saw it online. So we started as the backpacking, but we had to change it because it was like this is not just for backpackers. This is for people who all types of travelers, and it wasn't just Southeast Asia, it's Europe and all of this stuff. So we wanted to try and make it more inclusive for everyone, for
Mm.
all types of demographic of travelers. And that's why we use the word traveler, because I wanted it to be more inclusive. And I'm still, honestly, even today, I think we're constantly adapting. I'm still trying sometimes to play around with that because it's like, you know, how do you have this group or these communities that people read it and think, oh, I can join that. Because some of the questions I would get would be like, I'm not backpacking, I'm not a backpacker. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay. I said, look, don't worry. It said it's for everyone, like it's just we use that because that's how the group started. And also, backpacking the word, certainly for younger people, it was a real key term. You know what I mean? People thought when they joined the backpacking community, that's what everyone was. And it was a community in itself. And that's true. But if you traveled long enough like I have and you've seen it and you've done it, you see that actually, if you take a step back a little bit, that there are some people who are backpackers and there are some people who are travel their own way, and there are some people who are, not everyone's on a 3 month backpacking trip. Some people on a 2 week holiday, like the Americans, and they don't get a lot of holidays, right? So, like, when they're working in jobs, so they get like 10 days, 2 weeks to fly over and they hop around. And so so we've had to try and change it. And then today, like I said, I think we're constantly adapting. I've been a digital nomad, so to speak, for however long I've been out. So that's what we're trying to do now. And that's how me and you have been connected lately, is obviously I'm trying to like sort of again adapt to what is today, the digital nomads and remote workers and everything else. But you're right. I think there is a difference. There is
Yeah.
a difference because there is a big difference, and it's something that again, I'm still in the process of trying to sort of separate and segregate a little bit, just because, but also at the same time, you want to make everyone feel that it's open for all. Because if you do
Because
meet a digital
I
no,
don't consider myself a digital nomad anymore. I used to be one, but I mean I'm not traveling every 6 months. I mean I'm not moving on
yeah,
a basis. I think I've
that's a
fallen
good
off.
point.
Yeah, I think I've fallen off that bracket as well. And I know guys
Mm,
who are permanently living in Bali, for example. I mean they're not nomad
yeah,
anymore. They're married with kids and all that now. So I mean I think that terminology applies for a certain demo for sure. I mean it's just a sexy buzzword again. Like I said, you got to keep it.
sure, yeah,
It is. like I said, but as a founder of Digital Nomads, I can say I'm no longer Digital Nomads. I have an office here, I got staff to pay, I got rent, no stuff to do. Right? So I
Mm.
always wonder if us, I mean, like I have a wonderful friend called Sophie. She just calls everything laptop friendly instead of a co-working space. So she goes like,
Yeah, I know you.
oh, she goes like,
Mm,
Cash, don't worry, this bar is laptop friendly. Oh, Cash, don't worry, it's laptop friendly. I said, dude, just clear a co-working or remote working space or so.
yeah.
Funny thing that she calls it all the time. Like every time a new term comes about, we have to kind of tweak it around to make it sound like, it
Mm.
now you got people co-living, you got all this kind of weird, like creative
Yeah.
us in Bali. You have a lot of different stuff happening now. But I think
Mm,
people today are leaving not so much, I won't consider them digital nomads. You got your crypto bros, you got your name it.
mm,
Right. I think a lot of it is just a community that believes in something kind of travels together. So
mm.
like
It's a yeah.
if I create a crypto community that travels to Taiwan tomorrow, I'm sure the entire 200,000 people will be in Taiwan tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I say, and I think I say this with all due, admiration for you, Tommy. I think I will say this, and I might get some flake for it online, but I don't fucking care. The one thing I think, Bobby, you are probably the one of the early guys who actually created this whole digital nomad term.
Mm,
I
mm,
was
mm,
just like, I was probably 2 years after you, to be honest, right? And for
mm,
me, it
mm.
just came out of nowhere to say, no, fuck it, let's call ourselves fucking digital nomads, right? Even though there was like 10 of us on the island who actually had a laptop that worked or Wi-Fi that actually worked, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Those were the days. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I
Absolutely.
said,
Yeah.
so I think like we kind of coined this term and we coined this idea of community. I really do believe that very strongly. To where everyone's trying to copy us now and just calling a different name. I mean, like the OGs
Mm,
will always be the OGs. Like I keep saying this, like we've done this before, our teacher will do it again. But the other
mm,
part of
mm.
it, I'm saying that maybe the timing was right for us. Maybe the market was right for us. Maybe everything was
Yeah,
perfect for us that it got us to the numbers that we have today, right? And the other,
yeah.
just to add on to this, just to get my question across, don't you think we shape opinions with our communities today more than we did back in those days? Like, do you think we control how narratives are written and driven?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the word, for example, the word influencer, and I say that influencer nowadays is thrown around so much, but essentially, influencers, certainly mid-level influencers, are just sort of they're just marketeers. The real influencers are the celebrities, you know what I mean? But and the big YouTubers, there's not that many who are that big, but but there's this term influencers that goes around today, um, which is basically people in first person who the influencers are just what bloggers were, 10 years ago, basically. It's first person, people saying, I've did this, I've did that, come follow me, come sponsor me. There's a level of sort of attention seeking with it, and there's a level of marketing. But I really truly believe that the true, let's say, community or like sort of day-to-day influencers, if you like, and again, I don't really like that word, are the people who drive conversation and who, like you mentioned, drive conversation, whose name you might see or opinion you might hear within communities rather than just like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I think communities in that sense are huge, and I think they might, if you're like me and you, we are like sort of founders of these communities, as much as we might not be on the like on Instagram showing where we are every day. You're in Singapore, I'm in Bangkok. We're not sort of promoting or showing what we're doing every day, but what we are doing is that we are working every day, connecting with our audience, and I think that's a different type of influence, where your name is constantly around these people who are part of it. So I think, yeah, we can control it to an extent. A lot of people in my communities tend to like to have conversations with me. Certainly, some are more argumentative because if they see me from a position of power, if that's how they want to define it,
Exactly.
they'll have their own sort of opinion against what maybe I say, whether they believe that opinion or they just want to sort of like test the water. But anyway, no, and that's fine, and that's the liberty, that's the
I
democracy of
keep
what
that I keep that going
communities are.
because I keep that going because
Yeah.
it keeps the engagement going in a
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I think any person who works in marketing as experienced as you are or I am, is that from to a large extent, there's no real bad conversations. If they are continuing and the threads continuing and the messages are going, even if it's criticism or something you don't want to hear, within reason. you got to keep that conversation going. You've got
Right.
to keep the messages going. You got to keep it going. And I think once you've worked in the marketing space or the sort of the community space, or if you've got followers or you manage audiences like large audiences like we do, or are influential, you understand that. You've got to keep the conversations going, even if it's a little bit negative. That's part of it. You get used to it. Obviously, if it becomes major insults and things like that, or people say some things really out of term, or um, there's obviously like swearing or whatever, discrimination or anything like that, then obviously you've got to take action. But, generally keep the conversation going. So yeah, absolutely. I think community builders are hugely influential. I mean, for example, if I look at all of the scheduled posts I put in my groups worldwide, my
Mhm.
name, Tommy Walker, comes up maybe, 10, 20 times a day in
Yeah.
these audiences. And
Yeah.
it's not me, it's these are scheduled posts and my name might come up, I might message something afterwards. And I'm not on my phone, be like, hey, I'm here, I'm traveling, or check this product out. I'm not advertising. I'm just connecting and communicating. And it might not be the fancy way, it might not be the this sort of narcissistic
Yeah.
or attractive way of connecting, but it's the real way. In reality, human beings interact like that. We are, whether it's face to face, whether we're doing workshops, we're in meetings, whether we are going out with drinks with friends, whatever, we connect by communicating. And you know, the Instagram influencer, TikTok influencer, when they're talking like that, they don't talk like that to people face
Mhm.
to face. They don't be like, "Hey, I'm here." Because people be like, "Dude, what you doing? I'm stood right here." No, they don't talk like that. You know what I
I
mean?
know. I know.
So I think,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe some do, but the most people don't. So I think community leaders like ourselves, we're just basically connecting the human way online, and I think it's important because the way the world's going, obviously, we're becoming more tech focused and savvy and reliant and incessant, and obviously AI is going to be huge. Which going forward, and still it is now, but it's going to be even bigger in 5 years. Never mind,
5 years.
20 years.
I'll give it 6 months, Tommy. I think I'll be
Yeah,
out.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Be sure,
I'll be
exactly.
out of
So,
touch. I'll be out. I'm worried. I'll be phased out after 6 months.
I'm still trying to, catch up with things like that. But I think generally now, I always say to people, you look at our family, our mothers and fathers and grandparents and things like that. Their lives and working in jobs was different. They would retire and get a pension and do whatever they wanted to do. But I think in our generation, certainly working online like we do with audiences we have and businesses. I think we're going to have to constantly adapt. And I think when we get to their age and their age of retirement, I think we're going to be in a whole different. Our knowledge base is going to be so different to what we know right now. Do you know what I mean? I think we're in a world where things are constantly changing. We're going to have to adapt and change our skills so much, and AI and everything like. And I don't really know, but I just think you just got to keep on it. You got to keep on it, keep working, keep making the money, keep building, even if you think, oh, I'm not up to with this trend, or I'm too old, or no, you got to keep doing it
I
because I
got
think that's the way we are. That's the way we are now with technology. You just got to try and do your best. I don't think necessarily you have to compare. I really, I remember when I first created my traveler groups at the time for Southeast Asia, or even other, yeah, was it? No, worldwide anyway. There was this other guy who was creating groups, and people would always say to me, you've got like the biggest groups in the world and travel groups. And I was like, no, I don't think I have. There's another guy who does it as well. And he actually had more members. I don't know if his engagement was that high though. I'm sure he's a nice fella. I probably spoke to him a few times. But so at that time, there was competition. And I was always like, don't focus on him. Just focus on myself. Like if my communities are a little bit smaller, and this is by like the hundreds of thousands smaller, it's not like, um, it would be like, well, just focus on engagement, focus on what I'm doing, like he would focus on other things,
It's quality.
and
It's group quality over quantity, man. I keep saying this. It's always the
yeah,
quality of the
yeah,
group and the amount of.
yeah. And that it used to be
Got about,
easier. The
I've got
engage
about 4 minutes
age.
left with you until this.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
going to do a quick thing, a quick question, and I want you to wrap it up for me. And then just
All right.
hold this thought. Mike, two things I want you to ask. I mean, I want to ask you, right? Number one, what are your thoughts on where this world is headed towards? That's number one. I know please don't give me the entire. I mean, when it might be a whole article about it. And number two, what would you recommend anyone trying to start a community or planning to move out and start life outside of their hometown or city or country or even experience this remote working lifestyle? If you got a
Mm.
tip for each one, that'd be great.
Where's the world going in terms of what? In terms of communities and travelers and digital nomads, AI, like that
Yeah,
sort of stuff, or
be
just
it
in, yeah.
geopolitics, be it anything that's affecting how we feel remote work might change because of maybe visa restrictions, maybe economic restrictions, could be anything. I don't know what.
Well,
I,
I think digital nomads and the remote workers, it's in the beginning, really. I think because if you look, the first digital nomad visa wasn't even launched until 2020 in Estonia, and so it's relatively new. We're 5 years in of countries allowing people to come and work. Thailand has a digital nomad visa, so I think that's only going to grow because governments want people to come and work and you know, put their money into the economy. So I think that's something that's going to grow, and we're going to see it from more countries in Asia, worldwide. Um, where do I see communities going? It's a good question. I think the main thing I look at and is that it's just about other platforms. Like what are other platforms, social media platforms, and other sort of what they're going to do first of all, and also how is AI going to play a role? Because, for example, quickly, one of my groups, I got this message from Facebook, and Meta have launched their own AI chat box, and they're saying, "Oh, hey, we have a chat box. Do you want to activate it? We can answer certain questions for you." Now, that actually takes a lot of that helps me a lot because if I want them to sort of build engagement or recommend one of our sponsors, then obviously we can program them to do that. So I think AI is going to be able to have a lot more to say. I think other platforms we're going to have to look at rather than just obviously. I mean, other platforms like TikTok and Instagram, they're more like sort of window social media, but I think other platforms might look at the communities as well. I think Facebook groups are Meta's biggest commodity, I think. So I think that's going to grow in that way. In terms of
yeah, but
advice,
that's
uh,
like Meta
yeah,
owns like WhatsApp, they own. I mean, WhatsApp community,
yes,
like
yeah,
Discord, Slack. I mean,
yeah. I was more talking at other social media, like what I don't know, TikTok, ByteDance, that sort of stuff.
yeah,
I just think, personally, I think Facebook needs a bit of a rejig. I think Zuckerberg and that they need to look at how to make it. The trend app again. But I think Facebook groups, honestly, I think it's their biggest commodity. I think that if it
100%.
was up to me, if it was up to me,
Mm.
I would if I sat down with the Meta team, I would say what you should be doing, you should be selling your groups to the people who admin it and let them control it as their own entity, their own business, and you can take a cut if there's any sort of sponsoring or money made from it.
Mm.
I would say that because I think people really take ownership of Facebook groups. Finally, advice. Look, I think, first of all, you want to be a digital nomad. People look at that first. And I think it's the wrong way to look at it. If you've got a bit of an adaptable mind and you're flexible where you can work online and you can travel, you've got to look at who you are first. I think people always ask me many times, do you know any digital nomad jobs? I'm like, what do you mean, man? Digital nomad's not it's not a job, it's a style, right? You know what I mean? So I think what you have to do is get your skills in order first, look at what you can do and whether that will be adapted to a remote working job. And then you've got to look at your own lifestyle. Like you said, it's a good point. Are we digital nomads anymore? You've got a business, you've got an office there, you're living in there. It's a bit like with me. I live in Bangkok, I'm in my apartment, I've got things I have to do here. I'm mostly in Bangkok nowadays. So we're just dormant digital nomads, I think. But I think for people starting out, they've got to look at, forget the trend. Is this something that you can do, for the foreseeable and regularly, for years? Not just do it for a trend for like a year, just so you can show people on Instagram. Is this a lifestyle you can adapt to? And I think, so you got to look at that, look at the skills that you can do and what you can learn and what you can make money from. And communities as well. I think, maybe just if you want to begin a community, create a community that's something close to you and build it from there, like don't maybe try and compete with others because it's been done, I'm sure already. You've got to create something that's close to you and how that represents what you're doing and what you're working in and what industry you're working in or where you are. I'm sure there's digital nomad communities crying out to be created in some parts of the world, like North Korea. Do you think there's a digital nomad career, things like that? So it depends where you go. But I think you just got to focus on yourself. It's a long-term thing. Like I never thought like, oh, I'm going to be a digital nomad. It wasn't even a term. It was just like I just want to travel as much as I can. And if I can make money along the way, great. And I'm going to do things which I'm interested in, online writing, community, social media, marketing, they're all adaptable where you can do them remotely. So it was something that I was interested in and managed to do it. But it took time. Things take time, it's kids nowadays, they want everything quick. They want to live up to the trends because it's the cool thing to do. Just be content. Don't be so insecure. Look after yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing.
Yeah.
Focus on what you're doing and create something. And the biggest advice, sorry, just to end, is that if you're working in a job that you don't think you're going to do forever, like a day-to-day job, build something on the side. Always have a second sort of activity you're doing. Since I began, if I was working in, I was in hospitality for a bit in Australia, but I was building everything I do on the side now. So as soon as I finished, I was a marketing manager for a restaurant. I was sat at the restaurant on my laptop, building my communities, writing travel stuff, pitching sponsored trips, like building my social media, brand, whatever I was doing, email newsletters. I was doing all that as well. Like
Yeah.
Monday to Friday on an evening, in my opinion, if you want to build something, there's no social life. Take a day on Friday night or Sunday or Saturday, whatever, but you should always be building something on the side, and if you really enjoy it, you'll do it naturally. It won't be a chore. So, yeah.
Perfect. It's a great way to wrap up, Tommy. I,
No
I,
worries, mate. Nice.
I really appreciate this call. You know what? I'm also hoping that I'm waiting for an article for you for 84 Musing anyway. Hopefully, at the time,
Okay.
bring one out for us so that we can put it on our Substack as well.
Sure, sure, sure,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, let's do that. And I'll say, Tommy, thanks a lot, mate. I really appreciate it. I hope anyone listening to it learns something about not just about community building, but also being a remote worker or digital nomad, as we call it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
the lifestyle that we live. And anyone
Absolutely.
follow Tommy in the description that we have on our YouTube description below. And Tommy's social will be all hung over there. You can figure it out. Follow him, scold him if you have to. Anything.
I'll be used to that. I'll be used to
Yeah.
that.
Hey, Tommy, thanks a
No
lot
worries,
for your
mate.
time, brother. I'll
All right,
check it
buddy.
once in a while, though, yeah?
Yeah. See you soon, mate.
Peace out, bro.